went right to the dorms that we stayed at, and it was sort of just a little taste of what it's like living that lifestyle of high intensity. And just the first day especially, I definitely figured out what it's like to play in the WHL. Is or well, not what it's like, but they did a whole ton of fitness testing on the first day. So pretty much the idea behind it was to tire you out, and then over the next few days you'd do some skating to sort of see what you'd be like in mid-season form. And no, that was definitely sort of a wake-up call for me, because I thought I was in good shape, but it really gives you an idea of things you need to work on, and how you can be prepared for the next time you end up trying to actually make the team. So, but meeting all the coaches for the first time at that camp was super cool. They're always super welcoming, and also a couple of the older guys on the team were there to sort of just to help you guys out, help the younger guys out, and give them any guides and tips. And yeah, it was mainly just a lot of fun. Like, you sort of get a taste of what it's like being around those type of guys, and yeah, it was just a really cool experience.
All right, now the next sort of the big pressure thing would be signing that WHL contract. Banks, I don't remember exactly when you signed. I think it was late summer or midsummer or something like that. Can you talk about the build up to actually signing with Kamloops, and sort of what your family and your advisor agent sort of went through with talking about pros and cons, and sort of what Kamloops' pitch were, and what you guys were sort of thinking about signing at that time?
Yeah, so after spring camp, um, they offered to sign. I was like offered to sign right then, but I took a little bit of time to like talk about it with my family and advisor and agent about like the college route per se and stuff. I was 50-50 for a long time, but then I started doing some more like in research and info about the Western League and all the positives and like good things that come about it. I'm not saying that college is bad. I'm just, for me personally, the Western route was the way to go for myself and my development moving forward.
Thomas, you were a little bit later, I think, signing. So can you talk about sort of your process leading to deciding to sign with Seattle in the Dub?
Yeah, so for me, after that first year of spring camp, they actually offered me to sign as well, but I definitely wasn't ready to commit to that yet. So over the summer, I kept training, and then coming into camp, that was my first time seeing the rink in Seattle, because their spring camp was in Edmonton. And as soon as I got there, I fell in love, just seeing like what happens behind the scenes there, and how great of a town it is. And then also once you end up playing in that rink, it's just a crazy feeling there, especially in the US division. Is electric fans, and I think Seattle definitely has some of the best fans in the league. And just seeing there, that's when I fell in love for sure. And I knew that that's the route I wanted to take. Not And also seeing like how fast the hockey is, and I got to go down and watch a game. I think it was against Everett, which is their main rival team, and the building's crazy. So that's when I fell in love. And I think at the end of that camp, I had a few calls with my advisor, and then I talked with my parents and had lots of meetings with the GM and the goalie coach there, just to see what would be the best fit for me. And we all collectively decided that the time was right, and this is where I wanted to be in the future. So that's when I decided to sign at the end of that camp.
Now, can you guys talk a little bit about main camp? Like, I mean, we talked a bit about spring camp, but just like, my thing is like, you're a first round pick or a second round pick or a camp invite, and everyone's sort of slotted into that spot. But then once main camp starts, man, if you play good and you're a fifth round pick and you play better than the second round pick, that's all that really matters. Because like we've told you guys, it's a performance-based business. So it doesn't matter if you're a second round pick or camp invite. Like, I've seen my years scouting where guys come in as camp invites and they play way better than the guys that were second round picks. And guess what? Then now they're way more valuable. And the second round pick, maybe you're sitting there going, ooh, maybe it was a bad pick. But as soon as camp starts and hockey starts getting played, any first round pick or that stuff doesn't matter anymore. It's all about how you play. So, Cade, can you talk about, obviously you guys had a good draft year with the 03s. Can you just talk about once hockey starts, how sort of it's performance based, and if you're where you went isn't as big of a deal as how good you play?
Yeah, so for main camp in Kamloops, you're basically just it's random order, just sent on. There's 4 teams. You don't. No one knows anything about anybody or where they went. Everyone has like an idea, but it's basically you perform well here, you're in good company because you got all the older guys and guys that have been on the team, like showing you what to do and like kind of showing you like the role and what the league looks like. But as soon as it gets on the ice and workouts and stuff, you're competing for yourself here. Like you want to make the team, and you want to be the best that you can be. And it doesn't matter, like you said, Leland, what round you were picked in. As long as if you can play, like you can play, and they're gonna take a chance on you regardless.
Thomas, same sort of question.
Yeah, so for me, my first year at camp, the biggest thing for me was just making a good first impression on everyone. So doing whatever that meant to stand out from the rest. So obviously, you try and perform as best you can on the ice, but for me, it also meant just doing whatever I could to stand out off the ice, whether it be just holding a door open for someone or just being nice, smiling, shaking hands firmly, just anything I can do that usually you'd think would be unseen, but those things don't go unnoticed and they can definitely help you out. But yeah, on the ice, I was definitely a bit nervous going to camp because that's your first time really playing against these 18, 19, 20-year-old veterans that have been in the league and they're twice your weight in size. But so it's a little bit intimidating, but really once you get into the flow of it, you sort of realize that, hey, maybe I can play at this level. And it's, yeah, you sort of just get an idea of what it's like being there with all those guys.
I mean, some of you guys will get drafted. Some of you guys, the majority of our team, the reality is the majority of our team won't get drafted, but you will get invites to camp. So at that point, pick the camp that excites you the most, pick the one that they seem the most interested, pick the one that you just want to go there or you think it's a cool team. And when you go as a 15-year-old, the keys are, one, everything's experience. No 15-year-old besides Connor Bedard is playing in the WHL next year. So you're not as a 15-year-old, you're not there to make the team necessarily. You're just there to make an impression, get to know guys, have a good experience. If you're unlisted, hopefully you get listed or you get some good experience there and prove you can play at that level and learn a little bit about that team. And the biggest thing is when you go as a 15-year-old, you're just going there for all experience, everything's bonus time. So then, Banks, can you talk about maybe your first exhibition game and how that was, and maybe nerves or what kind of that felt like?
Yeah, for the first exhibition game as a 15-year-old, that's the most nervous I've ever been before a hockey game in my life. Because I didn't know what to expect. You're gonna be playing against 19, 20-year-olds who are, like Tom said, twice your size, twice your weight, and they're almost like grown men. And I started the game, first shift, and I think that's when my nerves settled down after the first shift. I settled right down and just decided and was just playing my game. The rest of the game didn't go too well. I finished -2, but it was a great experience, and I learned a lot from it.
Thomas?
Yeah, so for me, my 15-year-old year, I didn't end up playing any preseason or exhibition games, but my first sort of taste of the WHL was I think it was in Tri-Cities this year, my 16-year-old year. And, I think my first or second preseason game was against my Mason Dunsford, who was my goalie partner from Bantam, which was this year, and he was playing for Tri-City. So that was just a pretty cool experience. I was obviously super nervous going into that, but I think after the first period or so, I was totally dialed in and all the nerves went away, and it was more just focusing on what I needed to do to help my team. And I'm still obviously trying to make a good impression on the team, keep those impressions going for sure.
Both of you guys, but start with Banks. Can you talk about now you've gone to camp, you can't play in the WS15, so now you're back at BWC. How do you, knowing that you'll hopefully be in Kamloops as a 16-year-old, and for Thomas hopefully 16 or 17 in Seattle, how do you stay focused on being, the best midget prep player when sort of half your mind starts to drift to next year? Like how do you stay in the moment of your current season when you're so focused on the year after?
I just try to live in the moment and enjoy the time back home, because you don't know, like, this could be potentially my last year at home before, say, I try and make Kamloops and have to move away. So I just tried to enjoy the season and get better with all the things that Kamloops told me I needed to work on before coming back, trying to make the team. So I just tried to work on the little things during like practices and stuff and try and resemble them into the games, just so I could try and be getting better on the ice as well as off the ice, with like strength and fitness and all that in the gym as well. Because I wouldn't say I'm a big guy, but I needed to get bigger if I wanted to make the team in my 16-year-old year. So I also tried to focus and work on that kind of stuff as well. And I just tried to enjoy my time at BWC. It was some of the best years of my life, and I wanted to make it all count.
Thomas, can you maybe focus on sort of this year where, you didn't make Seattle because they already had two goalies. You knew you're probably going to play the year after. How do you stay focused on playing at the midget level, and so what was sort of your mindset at the midget level this year?
Mm-hmm. So at the start of this year's camp, they actually kept me up at the start of the year for quite a while, and they really hadn't told me like if I was going home or how long I was staying. So, after I think about a month of being sort of on the team as a third goalie, they sent me home, and obviously that was a little bit upsetting, but I knew it definitely made sense for my development. They wanted me to play and stuff. So, obviously I was thinking I'm really close to playing at this level. So what I needed to do is do everything I could to dominate the level I was at this year. And, those things don't go unnoticed. There's always scouts watching somewhere, and hockey TV, anyone can see that. So they can see how you're playing at this level, and they really take note of that. And also sort of what I used as motivation for this year is I knew that I was that close to making the team. So whenever I was in the gym or on the ice late at practice, when I was getting tired, I'd sort of use that as motivation in the back of my mind, not focusing on moving for the future, but just in the back of my mind, using it as a little bit of fire in the back of my head to motivate myself to push myself even harder and do what other guys aren't doing to get to that level.
Caedan, can you give us the moment when you were told that you're going to play in Kamloops and stay in Kamloops this year?
The moment I found out I was making the team this year, there was about 3 or 4 of us young guys left. 3 of us were 16-year-olds, and this one player got called into the coach's office and was told like he wasn't going to make the team this year and was getting traded. And coach, after he told him he was getting traded, he called us 3 16-year-olds into the office and basically congratulated us and thanked us for our hard work throughout main camp and all the year leading up to this, and told us we had made the team and we were going to spend the rest of the year in Kamloops.
One more for Caedan. Can you talk about this year and what it was like billeting, like your billet family, your billet brothers, sort of the day-to-day, maybe the first bit of awkwardness and how you got over that, and just having billets and what that sort of world was like.
Yeah, it was weird for like the first couple days living with billets. I mean, I had never lived with other people other than my parents before, but they welcomed me with open arms. They treated me like I had been there for 4 years. They treated me amazing. I lived with three other guys, so it was kind of loud and obnoxious at times, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything because a lot of them taught me things and for the league and treated me so well that I couldn't thank them enough for just making my first year so special, because I was pretty nervous and I didn't know what to expect, but I felt super at home and super relaxed as soon as I met them. So.
Thomas, we do our pregame visualizations. Can you tell us a bit about your mental side of the game? I know it'll be from a goalie perspective, but what sort of things mentally, whether it's visualization, whether it's self-talk, whether it's anything like that, do you sort of partake in and help things that have really helped you going forward?
Okay, so yeah, I'm definitely a huge believer in the mental side of the game and doing whatever I can to give myself that little edge over anyone else who isn't taking advantage of it. And a lot of it happens pre-game. I'll be in the car ride or the bus ride onto like going to a game. I'll just take a few minutes, take my headphones out, and just sit in silence and visualize myself being on the ice and making the saves that I want to make and making clean saves. Just pretty much playing a perfect game in my mind before I even get to the rink. And then once I get to the rink, that's when I'm all dialed in. It's all focus. And I think one of the things I do once I'm on the ice is if I let in a bad goal or have a bad rebound or something, I have a few keywords, I call them, that I say inside my head, and or even say them out loud just to totally clear my mind and reset my brain and just focus on the task at hand, which is just making the next save, not dwelling on the past or anything. So yeah, I definitely believe in the mental side of the game.
Caedan, sorry, are you good, Thomas?
So I was just also just going to add on that I've also been doing a lot of reading recently about there's tons of books on sports psychology and the whole mental side of the game. So I've been really interested in reading those types of books recently.
Thanks, Thomas. Obviously a huge edge. And what I've told, well, you guys have heard me say it, but the mental side of the game can give you the edge, right? Everyone's got a strength coach. Everyone's got a skills coach. Everyone's on the ice. Everyone's doing workouts, but not everyone is focusing on your brain. And that's where you can make the biggest edge is having that mental game over someone else. So anything you can read, anything you can look at, anything you can visualize, it's going to help. It's going to help you so much. Banks. So you had a player that's probably going to be a high draft this year, Connor Zary. He might be a first-round pick. Can you talk about, I think you lived with him, what he's like as a guy, how focused he is, and why, like what makes him a player that's going to go in the first round of the NHL draft possibly this year? On the ice, off the ice, everything.
So yeah, I lived with Connor for the season. He was a pretty laid back guy. He didn't really bring the talk about hockey or even discuss it when he got back home. He was more super driven on at the rink. He would stay for hours on end at the rink. Even after practice was over, he would stay on the ice for another hour and a half, just working on little things, and they would be the same little things over and over and over again until he could do them in his sleep. He was very very meticulous about all his skills and his work ethic and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, he was just a great guy. Really helped me this year. Showed me a lot of cool things, and yeah, I hope it all works out for him.
Thomas, for you, maybe being around, like Seattle had a goalie drafted by the Flyers named Roddy Ross. Maybe just your time, what time you have spent with him, and sort of what you see from a older guy. He's an NHL draft. What sort of anything you picked up from him or learned or saw or liked about him?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I learned from him, he's definitely similar to Connor there. He's a super driven guy, and at the rink, he's always dialed in. His pregame warm-ups are always the same. He's very thorough, but away from the rink, he's just a great guy. He's fun to be around, and he teaches you all the little things that might not be about hockey, but it's just a fun guy to have around you. And he's definitely a good sort of starting mentor for me going into, like, he's been in the league for 2 years now, and he played junior in the AJ before that, and he has the experience that I don't have. So just anything I can pick up from him, just be a sponge and soak it all up. So it's definitely good having him around.
Thanks. Tell me about what you guys do in Kamloops on a Wednesday night in November. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, are you bored? Are you just staring at Snapchat like all the rest of these guys, or like, what are you guys doing with the boys, or what are you doing at your house or whatnot? Like, how often do you guys hang out? What types of stuff do you guys do?
I mean, there's not a ton of things to do in Kamloops. But on like nights like that, usually we would just like stay home and just hang out. I would stay home and hang out with the guys I'd live with. Some nights though, because I was a first year player, I would have to go like do like community stuff. And a lot of those nights I had to go to like Superstore or like Save on Foods and go bag groceries and stuff like that. So most of the nights I did have something to do, but on those rare nights I usually just stayed home and rested and relaxed usually we had 2 or 3 games that weekend. So I was just usually getting ready for those games.
Thomas, can you talk about maybe a friend of yours, similar age, same age group, that didn't get drafted and was maybe down, and sort of where their careers have gone since, whether they were listed or now they're signed, or something for those players that don't get drafted, and maybe a story about a friend of yours that didn't get drafted, and I'm sure they were down at first, and that's fine, and then how they reacted.
Yeah, so one of my buddies that I played minor hockey growing up with in Coquitlam, he wasn't even, I don't think he was even on the radar going to the draft for anyone's team. And that was the year I split up and went to BWC for my second year bantam, but he stayed playing minor hockey. And so I ended up getting drafted, and, obviously I still keep in touch with him because I'm really good buddies with him growing up. But yeah, I hadn't really heard much about his sort of career coming up. And, I had a lot of positive things going on for my hockey career. I was having a really good year last year, and I had lots of opportunities to play for different teams and such. But this past year, actually, I sort of started hearing a little more noise about him, and this is totally undrafted. It wasn't even ranked, I don't think. And now he ended up getting listed a couple months back with Seattle as well. And just a few weeks ago, he actually signed a contract. So now seeing the different paths we took, going through second year bantam and first couple years of midget, and seeing how we're sort of come full circle, and it didn't really matter which path we took, getting drafted or undrafted, but we both ended up sort of reuniting and playing for the same team, hopefully in the future. So I thought that was really cool. And obviously I gave him a call and congratulated him. And, if it wasn't for quarantine, I'd definitely be meeting up with him and hanging out with him a bit more.
Well, yeah, and I didn't even think about that. That's a player that actually did try out for BWC, and whoever the coach of BWC Bantam Prep was that year decided not to take him. Although we did talk about him a lot. but we didn't take him. We didn't take him for Bantam Prep, so we just went back and played Coquitlam. And then all of a sudden I saw last year that Seattle listed him, and then they signed him right away. So again, like, great story. Like, didn't play Bantam Prep, didn't play, played, I think, minor midget as a 15-year-old. Like, wasn't on anybody's radar. Did not ever make a WEP list ever. Like, that really matters. And now he's a signed WHL player. And yeah, that's a great story. Banksy, for you, can you just talk about, like, the grind of the WHL season, the travel, the ice time, the lack of ice time at times, being a healthy scratch, how you dealt with that mentally, being a 16-year-old in that league, especially with a player like Logan Stankoven, also a 16-year-old who probably got a lot of the lion's share of sort of credit, or not credit, but he got a lot more as a 16-year-old. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So obviously Logan's a great player and stuff. So I kind of had anticipated that I would be kind of fourth line, third line all year. Um, uh, Obviously, the first couple games of the year, I was in and out of the lineup. I think I would play one, out one, played one, out one. And I just decided to ask the coach, like, what could I do better and what should I be doing? Because I want to play, like, I want to stay in the lineup. And he gave me some advice on what I should do. And I tried to implement that into my game. And I ended up staying in the lineup for a majority of the rest of the year. Just basically trying to ask coach, like, trying to bring in different skill sets to the game and what he needed from me and what I wasn't doing, trying to help the team and best I could. And for the travel and stuff, first week of the year, we had a 3-3. We played at home for the home opener, and then had to go down to Seattle and Portland. And that's the longest trip I'd ever been, like, experienced on a bus for that long. Sleeping on the bus overnight, something I hadn't experienced before, but it really showed me that you got to take care of yourself, you got to take care of your body, because it's a long season, it's a grind, and you got to make sure that you're at the top of your game all the time. Because I mean, we would be traveling, but they wouldn't travel and they'd be at the top of their game, but you had to match that. So I took that as a big learning lesson for my first year.
Thomas, what's your day like? What's your life like in the current environment here with COVID? Like, what sort of things are you doing to keep yourself sharp, hockey wise, non-hockey wise, school? What's your days and weeks been like in this where we are in today's world?
Yeah. So for me, what I've been doing the last probably 2-3 weeks is I've been strict on my bedtimes and waking up at a decent hour just to start my day off right. I'm always up before 9 and stuff like that. So I start my school in the morning. I make sure I'm on top of that all the time, and I sort of like to do all my school in the morning, similar to what our routine was like earlier, just to get it out of the way. And then I have the rest of the day to, focus on other things that hockey wise that maybe I wouldn't have time for normally with our busy schedule at the academy. So things like just doing extra mobility and stretching. I've been doing that a ton every night before I go to bed, and every morning as well. I do some stretching, and I've really valued that, having the extra time for that stuff. And obviously, with this quarantine, you have a huge opportunity here to get ahead of everyone else who's just sitting on their couch watching Netflix all day. So, but at the same time, you don't want to spend your whole day working out. You still want to have some fun. Make sure you're doing FaceTime calls with your family and whatnot to keep in touch with everyone and going for walks and stuff. But yeah, I've really been trying to take advantage of this opportunity, but still enjoying my time off. So, yeah.
Okay, one more question each before I put it open to the rest of the guys. For Banks, who was the player you played against or players you played against this year that you were just like, wow, they're sick, or like just unbelievable that you're actually playing against this guy, whether he's a World Junior guy or whatever? Like who were the guys that you were just like, wow, like I'm on the same ice with these guys?
Um, because we were in like the BC division, we played against Vancouver a lot, and Bowen Byram. First time we played him, I was kind of a little bit starstruck. Like, I can't believe I'm playing against this guy. I didn't play against him too much because, fourth line guy doesn't really go against the top D pairing. But there was one time he was out against me and he just went right past me. I was just in absolute awe of how good this guy was. Not saying like I'm good or something that he went past me, but like just like saying like he was pretty unbelievable.
Thomas, last question. You made Team Canada for the U17. Can you talk about that experience of wearing the maple leaf and sort of what that tournament looks like and how cool it is playing against those other countries?
Mhm. Yeah, that was definitely probably one of the coolest hockey experiences I've had in my life so far. Just there's camps leading up to it. You play against all these top guys from Ontario and Quebec, and seeing what guys over there are like, not just hockey wise, but personality wise. You get to bond with some of those guys playing on the same team as them. And but once we got to the actual tournament, it was just a crazy experience. The super busy schedule. You're playing a lot of games and not a lot of days, and a lot of the games are big games against European teams and other teams. Like we played Sweden, Russia, Finland, all the top guys. They're all those guys are ranked on NHL Central Scouting for the next couple years draft. So that was definitely pretty cool. And some of the games were broadcasted on TSN as well. So just being able to have family at home watch me play, and it was just super cool experience. And it's as a young kid, you always watch on TV, World Juniors, all those Team Canada, Olympics, and all that, and you one day dream of being able to wear that maple leaf. And now to say that I've had a bit of a taste of what it's like playing for a national team, I get to hang that jersey up on my wall now, and it's definitely pretty cool. But then at the same time, makes you realize that this is only the beginning of what I could accomplish someday. So I have to definitely be humble about it, but at the same time, proud of what I've accomplished.
All right, I really appreciate this, guys. Just a couple things before, if any guys want to ask questions, I would hope that someone will please ask a question. But before that, um, draft day. I know you guys all want to get drafted. I know some of you guys, you want to go as high as possible. I would say to that, like, it doesn't matter if you go first round, second round, 8th round, 20th round. Like, what matters is the team that picks you is the right fit for you. And if you don't get drafted, man, like, you can be sad about it for a day, but then it's time to, if your goal is still WHL, it's time to get back to work and make those dreams a reality. Because guess what? 3 or 4 days or 5 days or a week after the draft, you're going to start getting camp invites. So hopefully that'll get your motivation back going. But it's okay to be sad for a day, but then like enough. Like, let's move on. We know that 25% of the WHL is unlisted players. There's so many good players that get listed, and there's so many good players that don't get drafted. And we could tell stories and stories. Jerome McGinley, Shea Weber, Milan Lucic, like it goes on and on and on. So if you get drafted, awesome. You know where you're going for camp in August, or hopefully August, the way things are. If you don't get drafted, guess what? You're a free agent. Find a good fit for you. Do your research. Find a great place where you want to go to camp in summer, and make it happen, right? Just because you didn't get drafted in April of your Bantam year doesn't mean you're never going to play in the WHL. I know it's a cool thing, and I'll be proud of the guys that do get drafted. The guys that don't, man, be sad for one day, then let's move on and get ready. And if the WHL is still your goal, let's get. All right, any questions from anybody? Just unmute and ask away, please.
I have a question for Thomas. Um, Leading up to the draft, did you know you were going to get drafted? And after the draft, like, did anything change with the expectations and now, like, your rights are owned by a team and things like that?
So I'm not sure if they still have this around, but there was the Western Elite rankings in Bantam, and
Yeah.
some people studied that heavily, and that's all they relied on. But really, that doesn't mean anything. And obviously, I was ranked on there, so I sort of knew I was gonna get drafted. I I was hoping early, but now looking back on it, it really doesn't matter. And yeah, seeing what it's like going to the draft, after the draft, it was definitely a bit of a not a weight on my back, but it sort of made me realize that, like, okay, wow, I've gone to this point, but now it was all about what I can do at the next step to, hopefully one day get to that level. But yeah, really not a ton changed. I would say the biggest thing for me was trying to stay humble about it, because obviously there were kids on my team that didn't get drafted that year and or got drafted later than me. So just being humble about it and making sure I was nice to those kids, and obviously, just enjoying it as much as I could.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Question for Will Huo. Can you talk about maybe your brother doesn't get drafted, didn't make BC Cup, sort of what you maybe, I know you're young, but what you remember about Sam sort of attitude right after the draft and sort of that summer and what happened since then?
At first he was kind of sad, but then he kept on training. So he just kept training because he got invited to the Seattle camp. And then he didn't make it that 15-year-old year, for the main camp and that. But he kept on working. And then next year for the 16, when he was 16, he worked harder and made it. Yeah. I don't really know.
Thanks, Will. Good story. Any other questions from any of the guys?
I got a question for Caedan.
Perfect.
How did you find managing school while playing?
You know, it's not easy. It's pretty hard, but you have educational advisors, and your teachers are my teachers at least were very understanding of our schedule and how we were always on the road a lot. And they made the work manageable for on the road and made it easy for us to get it done. And our deadlines were usually pretty reasonable to get the work in. But yeah, it's not easy by any means. It's pretty challenging.
I have a question for both of you guys. Do you guys have expectations, the academy? If we don't get G's, we sit, do you guys have to sit if you guys don't get certain grades?
Thanks. Go ahead.
You got it, Thomas.
Okay, so I was in Seattle for about a month at the start of the year, and also one unique thing about playing Seattle is that they're in the U.S. division, so you go to a high school that's in the States, and it's a totally different experience down there. The schooling and just the type of kids that go to those schools. It was definitely a cool experience getting the whole American high school experience. But yeah, as far as academics, Seattle has an academic advisor that's, I wouldn't say strict, but he's definitely always there to help you out and make sure you're on top of your stuff, and he can help you out with whatever you need. If you need a calculator, he's always got one on him. And they also have in Seattle once a week, for the school guys, they have tutoring sessions. So they have teachers that actually come to a room with just the kids and work on whatever you need help with. So that's definitely one thing that helps out a lot, is the tutoring sessions they have every week.
All right, thank you.
I have another question for Thomas. So, with the mental side of the game, obviously in the WHL, every goalie is going to be good, so you got to be mentally stronger than the other guys. You said, before your first WHL game, like what was going through your head? And you said you have some keywords you say after you let in a bad goal or something bad happens. Like what are those words?
So, it's not really the words specifically that matter. It's more just finding something that works for you. Like over the years, I've changed up all the time, just whatever works for me. And right now the 3 words that I say in my head are clean, crisp, and solid. Just reminding myself of the fundamentals of my game. Having clean, crisp movements and just being playing big, even though I'm a smaller goalie, so I have to play big, and especially in my mind, I have to play big. Knowing that I cover all the net is, a huge thing for me. So yeah, pretty much just finding something that works for you, play around with it, and if you have a word or a phrase that resets your mind or makes you think of something, then just find whenever you can.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Keegan, Bankier, are you a Cubs fan or a Giants fan? Like, what's the deal?
I like them both.
Both National League there, buddy.
Buster Posey.
Thanks. Well said. Okay, is anyone else with any other questions? Okay, well, thanks a lot, Caedan and Thomas. Appreciate you doing that, being alumni and guys with WHL experience. This was awesome. And thanks everyone else. Our first Zoom call out of the way. Yeah, have a great day and be a good person and all that stuff. And we'll see you guys on Thursday. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.